Okay, let's get started. So, welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Rafi Schulman, and I'm the co-founder of Olim Advisors. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. I'd like to just take a moment and welcome and thank the other panelists that are joining us today, Racheli Kremenzer and Mary Guth, who are both made Aliyah from Australia. So, thank you for joining us. Avram Levinsky, who is a real estate lawyer. He's a lawyer that we recommend people talk to, and Zvi Gleiberman, who is the mortgage advisor. As we go through the presentation, they will introduce themselves and share a little bit more information about themselves and, of course, guidance and tips. But I just wanted to thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate it. We have over 180 people who have registered from around the world. A lot of people aren't able to join us today, but they want to get the information. And so it's just a pleasure to have people from really all countries, countries from around the world, from Australia, from the US, from Israel. And for those of you who have joined us in the past, you might realize that we're doing this webinar at a different time. Usually we do it later at night, but today we wanted to do it in the morning because after the attack in Bondi Beach in Australia, a lot of people from Australia contacted us and they wanted to get information about Aliyah and real estate, and so we wanted to schedule it at a time that's more convenient for them as well. Just a few quick things to keep in mind. First of all, we are recording the webinar, so if you've come late or if you have to leave early, don't worry about it. We will send out the recording to everyone by tomorrow. Please feel free to share it. There are a lot of people who would like to get this information that just aren't able to attend, or people that didn't know about it. And so we would love to be able to help as many people as possible. So feel free to just forward the email to your friends, to your contacts, and we're happy to help them. The other thing is, like I mentioned before, we will be doing a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions about any of the information that we're covering, or if you have your own questions, just go ahead and type that into the Q&A box and we will get to it at the end. Just recognize that we can't get to everybody's questions and really get into the details. Everyone has their own situation, their own challenges, their own goals. And so we want to do that and want to help people on a one-on-one setting. And so what we encourage you to do is to reach out to us. Let's schedule a call. Let's talk about it. Let's really figure out what your plans are, what your concerns are, and help you put together a game plan. We will have our contact information at the end of the presentation, and we really want to encourage you to reach out to us. And we will, of course, also try to connect with you in the upcoming days and upcoming weeks. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with Olim Advisors, I just want to take a couple of minutes and tell you who we are and why we host these webinars. So we're actually really excited to be celebrating a 10-year anniversary. We started Olim Advisors 10 years ago, and it seems like forever ago. But thank God, over the years, we've literally helped thousands of people make Aliyah. We've helped a lot of people buy homes in Israel. And we want to keep on providing information, guidance, and tips, and of course, ask people to join us who can share their experiences with you as well. We recognize when we started Olim Advisors that making Aliyah is a challenging process. It's a challenging journey. It's a different culture, different language, different way of doing things. And a lot of the people we spoke to who had this dream of making Aliyah felt that it was just too daunting of an experience. So they kind of gave up and said, you know what, maybe when I retire, or maybe when the kids are out of the home, or maybe when this happens or that happens. And unfortunately, a lot of people were giving up on their dream. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to do something about it. We wanted to really help people in a unique way. Now, there are a lot of organizations that help people make Aliyah, and that's amazing. But we felt that there are people that are looking for more guidance, for more hand-holding. And so that's what we set out to do, is we created an amazing team of advisors who guide people through the whole process, from the early stage of finding communities and schools and what to ship and healthcare. There's 101 decisions that you have to make beforehand. We will help you make those decisions. Then the second part is when you come to Israel, we will help you deal with all the bureaucracy, tell you what documents you have to bring, we will schedule an appointment, and your advisor will go with you to make sure that everything is done properly and is done quickly. And the last part is just really providing you with ongoing support, because a lot of people don't want to keep turning to their friends or family, and they want to have somebody that they can turn to for the little things and for the big things. And that's really our goal, is not just to help you get to Israel, but the key is to really have a successful Aliyah. You know, one of the things that we're most proud about is that less than 1% of the people that we help end up going back home, which is a lot less than the statistic I've heard, which is about 10 to 20% of people who make Aliyah go back. So the key is really to use the resources, to use the help, to not go through this process alone. And this also applies to real estate. We will help you find the right communities, the right projects. We have an amazing network of real estate professionals like Avraham and Zvi and realtors throughout the country. And the bottom line is we want to make sure that we take care of you. So I guess the message that I'm trying to share with you is don't go through this process alone, whether it's Aliyah or buying a home. Turn to people, let people help you. We can help you make it much less stressful. We can save you a lot of time. In some cases, we can save you a lot of money. And at the end of the day, we're all here to just help you realize your dreams. Okay, so let's get started. So the first topic is really Aliyah tips, and there are a few tips I wanted to share with you. The first thing is that there's in essence what I call the three P's to a successful Aliyah. The first one is preparing. Second one is the first one is planning. The second one is preparing, and the third one is perspective. So what do I mean by this? So the first thing is planning. You should have some sort of plan. It might be a long-term plan. Maybe you're not making Aliyah until you retire in 5 years or 10 years. That's okay. Maybe you want to make Aliyah this coming summer, and there's a lot of things you have to plan for, right? So the important thing is to plan and think through it. What's your lifestyle? What do you want your lifestyle to be? You know, for many people, this is an amazing opportunity to start an exciting new chapter in their life. And so think about that. What job do you want to have? Where do you want to live? You know, what kind of lifestyle do you want to have? It really is worthwhile to spend the time, to spend the effort to plan it out, and just recognize it has this some flexibility, right? You might want to make Aliyah in a year from now, and maybe things happen. It might be 2 years, and that's okay too. But having that plan, that framework, in my experience, really gets people to take that first step forward and take this dream, this abstract idea, and turn it into more of a concrete game plan. The second thing is preparing, and what I mean by that is that there are a lot of choices these days, a lot of amazing choices. You have amazing communities, from the Anglo communities like Ra'anana and Modi'in and Yerushalayim to other communities that maybe are more of a mix of Israeli, American, like Nahariya, Rishon, Rehovot. There's a lot of choices. There's a lot of small up-and-coming communities that people would love to settle into. And so you want to prepare. You want to do the research. If you're coming with kids, you want to look at schools, right? A lot of families will send their kids to the local neighborhood schools, and that's great. But for some families, for some kids, maybe there are other options. There might be schools 10, 20-minute drive, from where you live, and that might be the best option. So you really want to prepare. You want to do the research. If you're looking for jobs, you want to do a lot of the legwork beforehand. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. And just to give you an idea, our advisors spend probably about 60 to 100 hours per family over a span of a year to 2 years planning and preparing and helping them. So it's a big decision, and you want to make sure you spend the time and effort to plan it out right. The last thing is having a perspective, a positive perspective. What I mean by that is that your Aliyah experience is going to be challenging, right? You move into a different country, you're leaving what what you're familiar with, and it's a different culture, different language, a different way of doing things. And so it's okay to recognize that there'll be moments and days that are going to be challenging. But if you have a positive perspective, if you realize that you'll get through the tough days and it will get easier and easier over time, and it will take some time, but it will get easier and easier over time, then you will get through those tough times. And I think it's especially important if you have children, because they will reflect your attitude, your personality, your perspective. And so if you be honest and open with them and say, look, it's going to be challenging, but we'll get through it together, we'll figure it out, and down the road you'll realize that you've really adapted to a new lifestyle. I think that perspective will make a world of difference when you make Aliyah. The second thing is the importance of a pilot trip. And what I'm referring to here is planning a trip of 10 days to 2 weeks to come and see things with your own eyes, to see and meet people. So what we do is we actually plan out a pilot trip day by day. And let's say there's 3 communities you want to check out, and there's 8 schools that you want to check out, and you want to meet with Olim coordinators, and you want to meet with realtors, and you want to meet with residents. We will help you figure this out, and we will plan it for you. And the goal of this pilot trip, whether you do it yourselves or we help you, is to go back home and have a much better sense of your options, better sense of which communities are suitable, which schools, which jobs, and that will make the process, your Aliyah journey, much simpler. The next thing is, and I alluded to it now, choosing the right community. Again, there's so many different flavors, communities. There's the big cities, the smaller communities. There's urban, suburban. You have up north, down south, east and west. You have the religious, the mixed, the secular. Take the time, do the research, talk to people, get a sense of what's available. And what I tell people is make a list of preferences, right? What would your ideal community look like? Just make a list. It could be 5 things, 6 things, 10 things, and then try and find the community that matches up with most of what you're looking for. You're probably not going to find something that matches it perfectly, but that's okay too. If you have 9 out of 10 or 7 out of 8, I think you'll do just fine. The next tip is coming with older children. When we first started Olim Advisors 10 years ago, we would tell people that the cutoff age is around 10 years old. If you're coming with children who are older than 10, it's really going to be challenging and difficult for them. Now, that's no longer the case because there's so many more programs, schools, resources, social programs, social organizations. There's just so much for kids to kind of integrate at an older age. And we're seeing a lot of families who are coming with teenagers, kids who are 14, 15, 16, 17. They're doing the research, they're planning, they're preparing, but there are a lot more programs, a lot more options these days. And so if you're thinking about making Aliyah with older children, I want to put your mind at ease and let you know that there is support, there are resources, and this shouldn't be a reason why you don't make Aliyah. And the last thing is, like I mentioned, take advantage of the resources. There's so many resources. We offer resources, and I'll share with you at the end of the webinar quite a few resources that we offer at Olim Advisors. But there's WhatsApp groups, and there's Facebook groups, and there's people out there that want to help. And so don't feel like you have to go through this process, through this journey by yourself. There are people, there are resources that will help you, and I think you will find it very helpful. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel. It's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Rafi. Hi, everyone. My name's Racheli. I made Aliyah 3 years ago with my family, my husband, and my three daughters. At the time, they were 8, 15, and 16. So I'm one of those families who came with older kids. We moved here from Perth, but I'm originally from Melbourne and lived in Sydney as well. So I'm very familiar with the landscape in Australia and where people are coming from. At the time when we made Aliyah, there was no Aliyah Shaleach in Perth, so really there was no help for us in terms of navigating the system or working out how to really make Aliyah. We had no idea, and the Jewish agency were the ones who were used. However, if anyone started the process with them, they tend to not really get back to anyone ever. So it was really, really challenging. And somehow Rafi got my email address. I don't know if I must have signed up to something, and he emailed me to say, tell me about Olim Advisors. I didn't even know about them. And like I always tell Lara, without them, I would have left. I really would have packed up my bags and gone home because I couldn't have done it alone. It was a very stressful process. So when you don't have the help and support, it's really challenging to navigate. I found as an Australian at the time, I also didn't know about Telfed, which I believe is becoming bigger now and more accessible. But at the time, we were really pretty much on our own. So I'm a huge advocate for Olim Advisors. So I'll just go through my tips. So the first one is adjusting your expectations when you make Aliyah. I don't want to repeat what Rafi said, but the culture is very, very different. And probably the best advice I was given was don't keep knocking your head against a brick wall. Just accept things for the way they are. You're not going to be able to change them. You have to really stop swimming upstream. And as soon as I befriended that concept and allowed it to happen, it made things much easier. Things do not run the way that they run in Australia here at all. And it can be very frustrating at the beginning and it's very challenging. But I think once you stop coming up against that concept all the time and you accept it, it does make it much easier. So knowing that before is very helpful. The second thing I wanted to talk about were work options. So that's another thing. I also have to say that my family, we didn't plan our Aliyah for, 5 years 2 years, 3 years before even 1 month. It was a very last minute decision. We decided to come and then we came. So we didn't have a chance to do a pilot trip. We didn't have an opportunity to think anything through really. So when I talk about my tips, they are things that I learned after we moved, and would have probably been extremely helpful had I had some time to think about them. So in terms of work, many people, I suppose, think that, they're in a career, they've been successful, or they're enjoying their work, and they're going to continue with that when they move to Israel. And it doesn't mean that when you come here, if it works, that's great, and you can continue. But it doesn't mean if it doesn't work out in your area of expertise in your career that you have to give up and go to a completely different area. I know I hear of a lot of people moving into high tech that have had nothing to do with high tech before, I'm not saying it's not a good option, but you can also work within your profession and just do something different. So, for example, I mean, I'm a occupational therapist, so being trained in Australia, I can tell you our training is excellent, and at a very high level, and we have a lot to give. So, if, for example, always worked clinically, but now I work in more supervision. I do more consulting. I never would have thought that I would have done that, but for me to work clinically was very challenging because I don't have the language, wasn't at a high enough standard, and I didn't really want to go and resit the exam, and I wanted to work. So I had to work within my profession to find something else, and I've been able to tap in also to other places around the world. So my contacts, for example, in Australia, I do some work over there online. And so what I'm saying is there are a lot of options. Don't feel as if if you can't work in your profession, don't feel as if you have to give in the same way as you have been at home. Don't feel as if you have to give it up completely. You might just have to pivot a little bit, but there are a lot of options. And I know there are a lot of Australians here. As Australians, we do have a lot to offer, especially in my experience in terms of education, and professional development, those type of areas. So that's something that if you're more flexible around that concept and that idea before you come, you can be more open to different opportunities. The next thing is bringing a lift. If you do decide to bring a lift, then I would suggest packing it as much as you can. Furniture and goods in Israel are very expensive, and the quality is not like good old Australian quality. We're very lucky in Australia to have good quality products for a more reasonable price. So even things like sheets, towels, those type of things, bringing a second set for when your first set is no longer suitable, or gets worn out, things like that. Like bed sizes are different, things are different. So just look into what you can bring, and if you have space and you are bringing a lift, I really would suggest bringing everything and anything that you can. And the other thing is the stock availability in Israel is also an issue. It's not like, you go into Freedom and you choose a couch and it will be delivered in 2 weeks. It does not work like that here. Sometimes you might have to wait 3, 4, 5 months. You might think you've bought something and it's not there. They don't have it in stock. So really, if you're able to come prepared, it does make life much easier. The other thing is if you're coming as an Australian with school-aged children, I would strongly, strongly, strongly suggest, I cannot say this enough times, come in July. Don't wait till the end of the school year in Australia. In my experience, and the people who I've seen that have come in July and in December, January, we did come in January, and I did feel it made it much harder for my kids to settle in. In Israel, the beginning of the year is very, very significant in the school system, and I don't know why I can't put my finger on it, but things are a lot smoother when your children start along with other people, with the other kids, and especially if they're going into year 7 or into year 10 or into grade 1. Those are very key year levels here. And in terms of just setting up support, setting up systems for them, um, after school activities, chogim, everything, like just getting your head around the system. It's just much easier to come at the beginning of the year. And why I say July, even though school starts in September, is because there's a huge day camp culture here. And I'm just speaking, by the way, from my experience of living in Ranana. I live in a very, very Anglo community. So I don't I'm not exposed to a very Israeli life. My life is very Anglo, but for the Anglos, mostly in July, kids go to day camps. And it's a really nice opportunity for them to meet other friends and to settle in socially, to meet other families. And camps are really, really fun here. They have camps, any type of camp under the sun, or any interest your child have, you'll find a camp for them. So it's a nice way. And then August is a little bit quieter. A lot of people go away in August, but it's a nice time to settle down. It's just very hot. And then they're ready for the beginning of the school year in September. It's not to say that if you come in December, January, it won't work, but I do feel it will help the smoothness of the transition. And the last one is trying to get all your paperwork done before you arrive. That was my biggest mistake. We did not, and we had to deal with it all. Well, we were in the process of it when we moved. It's very challenging to live here without a Taudat Zahut. You only get your Taudat Zahut once you've made Aliyah, and it's difficult because you don't have access to banks, to apps like Paybox and Bit, which are really important in terms of day-to-day life, even registering your kids at school, registering to camps, registering to really anything. And again, there are ways around it. Your kids will still be able to go to school. They'll make up a fake Taudat Zahut and that you can use until you get your real one. But it's just so much more stressful. There are so many more things that you have to end up doing twice. So if you can get it all done before, I would highly recommend that. And yeah, if anyone has any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me. I think Ruffy will post all of our details, especially in relation to coming with older kids. Happy to answer any of those questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Rachel. It's amazing. Okay, Mary, we're up to you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. So my name is Mary Goot, as you can see on the screen, and I made Aliyah 9 months ago, together with my daughter, who is a single mum with two little kids. One is going to be in February 4, and the other one 2. The reason we made Aliyah, it's quite complicated in a way, but I have, apart from my daughter, I have two sons. And one of them made Aliyah, oh gosh, almost 20 years ago and has been living in Israel. And the other one with his family, they made Aliyah about nearly 7 years ago. That meant that my daughter and myself were left in Australia by ourselves. And for me, it was very important to be together with my family. So that was one of the main driving forces for me to make Aliyah, even though some people said that why are you doing it at your age, coming from a very comfortable and very nice environment in Australia at that time. So I think it's really important for you to think about why are you making Aliyah, and keep that in mind at all times, because a lot of the things that Racheli has said about some of the difficulties that you may encounter, the frustrations and everything, is outweighed by keeping in mind always, why am I making Aliyah? And once you start thinking about Aliyah, I would really strongly suggest that whether you're thinking about it immediately, short term, longer term, that you open an Aliyah file with the Jewish Agency. Doing that allows you to talk to them. And most importantly, you've got to keep on their backs and you've got to press them. What are the paperwork that you have to get done? They have a tendency to drip feed you. So instead of at the beginning saying, here are all the things that you need, they say, oh, now we need this, now we need that. So one of the things that I really learned is talk to them and say, can you please give me a full list of what is required? And very importantly, find out from them what are the documents that need to be notarized, apostilled, and what are the ones that need both. Because we found that sometimes and each of them costs money and each of them takes time and effort, particularly with apostle. You've got to make appointments at the, ahead of time. They're difficult to come by. Sometimes we got something notarized and apostilled, and then they said, oh, no, you can't. No, you got to redo it because it only needs apostle. You also got to make sure that you get the federal, this is for Australia, that you get the federal Israel, the federal police security. We got the New South Wales one. We lived in New South Wales. No, you got to get the federal one. And bear in mind that that only is valid for 6 months. So it's really important to know all this while you are thinking about making Aliyah. And the people who can answer most of that is the Jewish agency. And they were quite helpful, but you had to keep going back to them and said, I've sent you this. Did you receive it? When are you going to get back to me? So it does require effort on your part. The other thing is that when you come, not everything is going to be straight away available. And I strongly suggest that you make sure that you have sufficient resources to keep yourselves kind of going without necessarily having a big income or any kind of income for at least the first 12 months. We were fortunate that my family here found us an apartment for us to move into. As you know, or you may not know, most apartments come with absolutely nothing in it. So you've got to go and get your white goods and everything else. And as I said, we were lucky that the family lent us things until our lift arrived, which I completely agree with Raqueli. Cram it full. You know, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. We bought not a lot of furniture, but we did buy, for instance, bunk beds for the boys in Australia, the Bori, because they were so much better than anything that you can get here. Extra sheets, towels, all of the things that Kelly mentioned. Clothes we bought for the boys, our two little ones. We bought sizes 2, 3 years ahead at Kmart because it's good quality and lasts and inexpensive. It doesn't mean that you can't get things in Israel. Of course you can. Of course you can. And many people will tell you don't bring too much. And I think it's really up to you. You have to decide what's important to you. We bought a full 20 the 20-foot lift, and I'm very glad that we did. Talking about where to live. We didn't have to make that choice because my eldest son lives in Renana. My youngest son lives in the Shomron, which we knew was not for us. So it was just a natural progression that we would come to live in Renana, which again, as Racheli said, it's a soft landing, very soft landing, large Anglo community. I don't speak or read a word of Hebrew, although I can say a few, words here and there. But I've not found it an issue because there are so many people. Just the other day, I walked into a shop and I was trying to ask the person if the melon I bought, was it ready to eat? And she had no idea what I was saying. But immediately, 2, 3 people in the shop jumped in and said, she's asking this, she's asking that. And wherever I've been, it's been wonderful to see how people jump forward and help you immediately. I found people here in Israel very helpful. Wherever you go, people are always willing to step in. I'll give you another lovely example. The first time I was here, and I spent about 3.5 months here, I didn't know how to use the get like a taxi system. And I was standing at the corner hoping that I would find a taxi. And this lady came up to me and she took my phone and she quickly did it all. And she said, there, it's done for you. So, you've got to understand that help is there always. But in terms of choosing your community, you have to decide, what do you want? Do you want a small, as Rafi said, a small community, a large community? Do you want to be amongst a lot of Anglos? I know people who say we don't want to be with Anglos. We want to integrate into Israeli life and we want to live somewhere where it's predominantly Israelis. So all those things And when you're thinking about all those things, think about that's fine, but what's important to you and what are the services in that community? Will you be able to access it without the language? Is it going to be harder for you? So choose a community that really suits you. For me, it was a no-brainer. I needed an Anglo community, and that's why we're here in Renana. Look, I can't speak highly enough about having an Olim advisor. I honestly can't. We had the most wonderful Olim advisor who, well before we came here, my daughter in particular was messaging with him about kindergartens and schools and a whole lot of different things and any question that popped into our mind. Yes, we had family here, very busy. My eldest son travels a lot, so he wasn't around as much, but the family were wonderful and helped us tremendously. But having someone who actually really knows what are you asking for, does the research and helps you, and then when you arrive, holds your hand and comes with you to set up your bank accounts, to have the utilities if you're moving into an apartment, to look over the contract, even though I've had a solicitor look over it, to help settle all of your utilities into your name so that you can continue. Fight with the various organizations when you can't get an appointment. So I really cannot stress highly enough about the value in having an Olim advisor and Rafi and all of them, they have been wonderful.
Been our pleasure.
And again, Racheli also talked about this, but it's very important to come with the right frame of mind. Stop. We have this tendency to constantly compare. Oh, it wasn't like this in Australia, and things were better in Australia for this. And oh, gosh, this is so frustrating. Yes, it is. And I have to say that it's not been easy, particularly my daughter is still searching for a job, and it's been 9 months, although she didn't start looking for probably about 3 months ago because she was busy settling the kids in and everything, who, by the way, have settled into their little guns or kindergartens and things beautifully, and they're already speaking a bit of Hebrew and everything. So it's lovely to see them so happy. But stop comparing. Stop comparing because it's not the same. It's not the same country. It's not the same language. It's not the same customs. And it's the food is different and the air is different. Everything is different. And if you can adjust your thinking to look at the beauty of it and accept the differences, you're going to feel a lot happier. I can only say that we didn't make the decision lightly to make Aliyah. But a lot of people have asked me, my friends in Australia, how do you feel? Do you regret going? And my answer is no, no regrets. Number one, I'm with family. Number two, unfortunately, the Australia is not the Australia that I grew up in. I originally was born and lived in Hungary, and I only went to Australia when I was 10. So I knew what it was like as a young child to adapt to a new country, a new language. And I'm a child of Holocaust survivors. And I used to ask my parents, did you not see the signs? And later on in life, I kept asking myself, would I recognize the signs? Would I see the signs? And I'm not saying for 1 minute that that was in my mind at the time in making Aliyah. But now I say to my friends, look, I don't regret coming. My reason for coming was family, but I think we came at the right time. And so it's not for everybody, but I can only say that it's a great country to be in. So good luck with all of your planning and thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about real estate. I'm just going to share some overall general tips, and then Avram and Tzvi are going to talk about the legal part and the mortgages. So the first thing is that the prices really vary across the country, like any country. There's more affordable, less affordable, and so you really need to have a sense of what your budget is. And your budget is really comprised of two things: the down payment that you have to put on, that you have to put down as a foreign resident, that's 50%. As Israeli, it's you have to put down 25%, so you have to keep that in mind. And also make sure that you know how much your monthly payments, and this is where Tzvi, as the mortgage advisor, can really guide you through and help you calculate those things. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. Tzvi will get into more details, but really having a ballpark figure will help you narrow down your search, because if you can't afford to live in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, there's no point looking there. So keep that in mind, and really, run through the numbers to figure that out. The second thing is, what's your intent when you're looking to buy? Are you looking to buy something because you want to move into? Is that going to be your primary residence? Whether you're making Aliyah, maybe you already live in Israel and you want to, buy something now. Maybe you've been renting until now and you want to buy. So is it going to be your residence? Or are you buying it as an investment? Are you buying it as a vacation home? Maybe buying it for your kids, or maybe, for down the road. And so the intent is important, because if you're looking to buy as a residence, then you want to look at the communities where you'll feel comfortable moving to. If you're looking at it as an investment on the other end of the spectrum, there are a lot of communities where I wouldn't recommend that Anglos live, but have a lot of upside potential in terms of appreciation of your property. And so thinking that through is important. And it could be both, right? You want to buy your house as a residence, but of course you want it to appreciate over time. So we can help you kind of think through that, and we can help you identify communities to help you figure out where you should focus your efforts. The other thing is, if you don't need to move right away, there's a concept here in Israel which is called buying on paper. And what that means is you're buying into a project that is either being built, or maybe hasn't even started being built yet. What it does is it gives you a few benefits. First of all, you lock in the price. Let's say, for argument's sake, it's $1 million. Then you lock in the price now, and if the building is built in 4 years from now, that building, that apartment is going to be worth a lot more in 4 or 5 years from now. So you're locking in the price now, and you're only putting down a relatively small amount. A lot of the new projects only require 20%, in some cases even 10%. So you're putting down 10, 20% down now, and then when you need to pay off when you need to either take out a mortgage, or buy the apartment straight out, you can buy it at that point. So there's a few benefits when it comes to buying on paper. You do need to make sure that you're buying it from the right developer. So that's again something that we can help you with. You want to make sure that it's bank back guaranteed, and Avram will talk about that as well. So, but it is something that is kind of unique to Israel, and something that I would strongly recommend, because you can save sometimes 100,000, 150,000 shekel if you're buying it early on in the process. The next point is taking advantage of a softer market. So we've all heard about the appreciating real estate in Israel, and it seems like year after year, decade after decade, prices just keep going up. And I do believe that's going to continue to be the trend over a long period of time. But what we're seeing specifically now, and I think this will last for a relatively short period of time, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, is a softening of the market. There's a lot of unsold apartments out there throughout the country. Demand has dropped off a little bit, and so developers are looking now to are more flexible, right? Are more willing to negotiate, or more willing to accommodate buyers. And so, if you're thinking about buying, and you don't have to be making Aliyah again, if you're sitting outside of Israel and you're just thinking about investing in the real estate market, now is the time that you should definitely look into it and see if there are some short time, limited time opportunities to take advantage of this unique situation in the marketplace. And the last point is look for what I call real deals. And there are some real deals, and we can help you with those, because we have relationships with some developers where you can actually get what we call friends and family pricing. So these are a limited number of apartments, maybe it's half a dozen or a dozen apartments that the developer is offering at the beginning of their sales process at very big discounts. It could be 100,000, sometimes even 200,000 shekel less than what they will offer to the general public when they start marketing it. So if you are looking to buy something, even if you're just at the beginning part of your thought process, reach out to us. Again, we don't charge for this guidance. We want to make sure that you're getting what you need and something within your budget. And we'd be happy to guide you through the entire process and help you find the right property for you. Okay, now we're going to move on to Avram Levinsky, who's going to talk about the legal aspects of real estate.
Thank you, Rafi. And sorry, and shalom to all of you. I'm happy to be here and will do my best to give you some tips to the way legal tips that will be very, very crucial and important for you. Obviously, we're not going to speak about all things in legal issues are very complicated. And I also want to do to make a small disclaimer. Everything I'm saying is general. This is very, very important because everything we're going to touch need to be checked individually by the lawyer once you do something, and especially everything I'm going to say about the taxes, which is always I have stories from here until very many stories about small points that were changed, and therefore every case is different. So this was my short disclaimer. Let's start with speaking about. So I'm going to tell you in Bezat Hashem 5 things that I want you, 5 topics that I want us to speak about. And let's start with the first topic, which is the purchase tax for new immigrants. Oleh Hadash, I'm just reading what we wrote. Oleh Hadash benefits and exemptions that can save you thousands. Okay, so first of all, what are the conditions? Okay, we all hear that if someone is doing Aliyah, he can get very good discount for the purchase tax. So what are the conditions? What exactly I need to do? I need to do Aliyah. When? What time? What is the schedule of that the law legislation gives me, etc. So number one condition is to do Aliyah either 1 year after the purchase or 7 years, or that you're buying the property within the 7 years from the time you did Aliyah. So the legislation by the parliament gives us 8 years, 1 year period. The Aliyah, you can buy the property, and then after the Aliyah, you have another 7 years. You can use this Aliyah benefit. So that's the schedule of time. After that, the legislation also understands that sometimes we buy properties on paper. Sometimes the property will not be ready. Sometimes the property will be ready within 2 years. We give 20%. We'll speak about that a bit later when we speak about buying from a developer. We see what kind of schedule of payments we can do. So the law and the legislation, the parliament understand that. So they also gave us another option, and they said, listen, if you're buying on paper, we'll not count the 1 year. The 1 year that we tell you that you need to buy 1 year, and then within 1 year to do Aliyah, we'll not count it. We will start to count this 1 year when you actually arriving, when actually the property is actually built. Okay, so, and again, also this, small benefit, if you buy on paper, also limit for altogether 3 years from the time of signing until the time of doing Aliyah. So again, this is what I'm saying, the disclaimer. But again, we spoke about the two main conditions. Number one, to do Aliyah, we said we have 1 year period to Aliyah to buy the property, and maximum 7 years after Aliyah to buy the property. And if you buy on paper, we also able maybe to extend the 1 year period to the Aliyah because the property is not built. So that's the conditions. Now, I also want to give you numbers, that you will a bit understand how big and how crucial, how much you can save. So I took a very, let's say, quite, everyone that buy in Jerusalem, more or less, I don't know how many from you interested in Jerusalem or in Netanya, will find themselves buying something around 5-6 million shekels, something like that, because unhappily, properties are not anymore 1.5, 2 million shekels. So I took an example of 6 million shekel transaction, and I want to give you and some kind of numbers, just wrote it here, that I will be able to show you how big and how huge this discount. So if any of you are buying a 6 million shekel apartment and decide you are an investor, you live abroad, you live in Australia, you're not going to come to Israel at all, you will pay almost 500,000 shekel. Okay, almost 500,000 shekel for purchase tax for 6 million shekel apartment. And if you're doing Aliyah, listen carefully, within the time frame, you will be paying only 20,000 shekel. So instead of 500,000 shekel, you're actually paying nothing, 20,000 shekel, which is actually nothing. This is a huge discount. And this is very, very unique and very important. So now you also have the understanding, and for sure, in every price has a different scale, but it's very, very, very good and very important. By the way, one last point about the Aliyah benefit. The law was changed by August 2024. Because of the war, the parliament decided to give even higher discount. So what the numbers you see is so significantly better than investor, because the parliament decided to encourage Aliyah, because this is the target of Israel, of what we're doing here. So that's number one. Now I want to speak about purchase tax for returning residents. So some of you will not be able to do Aliyah. Why? Because you already have Israeli ID number, and you will not be able to do Aliyah. The formal Aliyah is not something you can do because you're already Israelis. So you can become something else. You can become a returning resident. If you will be a returning resident, but also one condition for that is that you will be more than 10 years in Australia, meaning at least 10 years, you will be able also to buy property with a very significantly reduction of the purchase tax. And I also want to give you the numbers. So the number, again, if you're an investor, if you live in Australia, if not doing neither Aliyah, neither returning residents, you will pay, as we said, 500,000 shekel for 6 million shekel apartment. Now, if you will live in Australia, you have the Israeli ID, and you will come to Israel as a returning Israeli within 2 years from signing. Here, unlike the Ole, we have 2 years. So if you're coming within 2 years to Israel from the signing to be a returning Israeli, you will be paying 200,000 shekel tax. Again, we saved 300,000 shekel, $100,000 we saved only because we came in time, and and even though we couldn't be Olim Hadashim. Okay. Again, I'm saying this again, the disclaimer: every individual needs to ask me or any other lawyer specifically about his case, but this is the frame of these points about the taxes. Let's speak now about a few points about buying from a developer. In Israel, we have two options how to buy properties: either to buy from the developer or to buy from any individual in the market, and then it's considered to be a second-hand purchase. Very soon I'm going to speak about the second option, about the second-hand purchase. But first I want to tell you a few points about buying from a developer. Number one, we have a very long and very important contract, and I want to tell you a few things important about the contract terms. For example, we will negotiate with the other side that the late delivery will be granting you like compensation every month. This is very, very important. We'll be writing also about warranty, that will provide you the warranty after you get the possession for any defect in the apartment. And also very common, a lot of our clients, not a lot, but quite a lot, buying from the developer before permit. Then they get a very, very good deal, very cheaper than what will be if they will wait for the permit to be issued. But then we have to negotiate very strongly about the contract, about the conditions, what will happen if the permit will be received or not, and it will be received by changes and not, etc., etc. So the contract is very, very, very important. I want also to say a few words about the payment schedule when we're buying from a developer. From my feeling, and you can speak with many, many people, I'm sure many people in the market will agree, currently the market is very good for buyers. Currently, the buyers can find very, very good deals and very good payment schedules also structured. We can see 1090, 2080, 1585, and we can see many, many things that are good for buyers. And if someone can say, listen, I will put now 20% or 15% or even 10%, and I will wait 4 years, and then I will give the rest, which gives you a lot, of flexibility with your cash flow, and can give you many, many options of how to subsidize the completion, either by tzvi or by any other way, or you will be winning the lotto, by a lottery. Okay. After payment schedule, I also wanted to tell you about the warranty. In a word, warranty is something very important. Every penny, every dollar you're going to pay, going to be guaranteed by the developer, or more accurately by a third party institution, which is the bank. I also wanted to show you how it works very, very shortly. You will be getting this kind of notebook. We will be writing the amount, we'll be writing how much you're going to pay, and this will be going directly to the third party bank, Against that funds the bank, which is, in Israel, all the banks are very stable. We don't have like 200 banks like in America. So the banks are very stable, very, very regulated. They will be issuing bank guarantee for you. And then by that, you will be protected 100%. So this is the guarantee. And also the warranty, I said in very shortly that, the property will be under warranty from the delivery of the possession to you. Few years after, you will be the property will be under warranty. Now I wanted to speak with you about buying secondhand property. So when we buy secondhand, I want to tell you a few tips. Number one, as a lawyer, we will do, as lawyers, we will do the due diligence. We'll check that the seller is okay, that there are no liens on the property, no foreclosures, no mortgages, etc., etc., etc. This is our job. One thing that we recommend for many, many years and many clients is to do inspection. Inspection is actually to check with a professional person the physical situation of the property, to see that there are no leaks, no huge problem with the electricity, no big problem with the sewage, everything that need to be checked. And this, very, very cheap. In the end of the day, it costs like maybe $500, $600. And this covers you, it gives you the understanding that what you're buying is what you're buying. And this is very, very important because typically in Israel, when we buy properties, we buy property as is. We don't buy property in condition that it will be fixed or in condition that the electricity will be fine. This is very fundamental clause in every real estate contract. The buyer buy the property as is and need to check it very, very, very carefully. Common pitfalls to avoid. I really think that the most important thing, for a buyer is to know that he has the funds and to get the pre-approval, the approval in principle from the mortgage guy, and to know that he has the equity. Once you know all of that, you're covered because the job of the lawyer is just to verify that everything is kosher. And so if you know that the lawyer checked that everything is kosher and you know that you have the funds available by the mortgage, by your equity, then you know that most of the problems you can avoid. The last thing is also very important is opening a bank account. This is something very, very important that we do for our clients and that they will actually need to have when they take the mortgage. So it's also mandatory when someone is taking a mortgage in Israel. But even without a mortgage, we're trying to give private bank account with username, with password, and with all the way and contact information in the bank in order to be able to use their wallet. Just as a story, in like 30 minutes, a client of us going to come here that we will set up with them together all the outstanding orders for water bills, electricity. So we're helping with all those things from the beginning till end. We're helping and we providing this service.
Okay, Avram, thank you so much. I know that you have here just a kind of a summary. So I'll just, in the interest of time, I'll just kind of recap what Avram said. Really to understand your tax rights and potential exemptions, right? Like we talked about. The second thing is to conduct due diligence, and the third thing is setting up a banking relationship. So Avram, as you can see, does more than just negotiating contracts and is more than willing to just have a short consultation call to answer any questions that you have. So thank you, Avram. We're gonna now move on to Tzvi, and just keep in mind when Tzvi's done, we are gonna just briefly talk about just resources that we have, and then also open up the Q&A. So we're gonna run a few minutes long, but I think there's just some great information here that everyone is sharing. So Tzvi, with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tzvi. I'm a mortgage broker. Mortgages in Israel feel familiar. You have, similar to your home country, you apply for a mortgage, you get approved, you have the mortgage payout, and then you have monthly mortgage payments. However, the terms are the same, but the way they operate is in a completely different manner. So because of this, you should give yourself the opportunity to understand how mortgages in Israel are different than mortgages in your home country. So I'm going to go through four main ideas, but you can feel free to reach out to myself, Rafi, Avram, or any of the resources that are out there to understand how mortgages are different as an advantage as well as a disadvantage. So the main question people ask is how much are you able to get in the form of a mortgage? So the total purchase price is made up of 100% of the purchase. Now, how much of that needs to come from you and how much are you able to take out in a mortgage? So it all depends on your status. If you are a non-citizen or a non-resident, so meaning you don't live in Israel and you don't have a Tudat Zehut, an Israeli identification, the maximum amount that you're able to take out in the form of a mortgage is 50% of the value of the property. Now, if you are an Israeli citizen, so you have a Tudat Zehut number, or you are an Israeli resident, meaning you are studying here on a student visa, for example, you'll be able to get 75% mortgage of the total value of the property. That means you'll have to bring 25% to the table plus closing costs, and the remaining 75 will be covered with a mortgage. Now, the big exception to this is if you are going to be a citizen in the very near future. So, and if you apply with the Jewish agency or through Nefesh B'Nefesh, and you have Aliyah approval, as well as a imminent date that you're going to be making Aliyah, you are able to be classified by most Israeli banks as an Israeli citizen, and therefore you'll be able to get the full 75% mortgage. Next slide. Okay. One thing that's not mentioned in here is how old are you able to get a mortgage? In other countries, it works differently. In Israel, it works flat. The banks generally want your mortgage paid off by the time you reach 85. So that means if you're under 55, you're able to get the standard 30-year mortgage. If you're over age 55, so for example, if you're age 65, you could get a 20-year mortgage. However, there are, like all the rules in Israel, there are exceptions. So there is one bank that I work with that will go past the 85-year range. You also have the opportunity to co-sign a mortgage with a first-degree relative, which will allow you to average out the two ages. And as long as it's under 55, you could get the full 30-year mortgage. Okay, my final two tips. Mortgage contingencies do not exist in Israel. A mortgage contingency is when you sign on a contract, basically saying that I'm signing on this contract on the condition that I will get a mortgage. That does not exist in Israel. So, which means getting approved for a mortgage, meaning the mortgage broker taking all your financial information, your full picture, actually applying as if it is a regular mortgage, and getting that approval is extremely important before signing on to a contract. And lastly, in Israel, the bank is the one that owns the mortgage. So it's not that the bank sells you the mortgage and then it's sold to a pension or an insurance company. The bank is the one that's holding onto the mortgage for the duration of your pay. That means that to your advantage, you're able to have multiple different tracks on the same mortgage. So in the States, for example, you could either have it fixed, you could have it variable, you could have it semi-variable. In Israel, you're able to have a single mortgage that has multiple tracks because of the fact that the bank owns the mortgage. Also, because of the fact that the bank owns the mortgage, if you have any issues with your mortgage, you can contact the bank directly. If you want to pause your payments, if you want to overpay, underpay, extend the term, refinance, it's a much simpler process because the bank is the one that owns the mortgage for the duration of your time. So those are my 5 tips. And if I can leave with one final piece of advice, buying a property in Israel, getting a mortgage is not so simple. It often happens in a language that it may not be your native one. It happens in Hebrew, in a currency that you don't regularly use, the shekel, and with concepts that may feel unfamiliar. Madad, buying on paper, mortgage tracks, grace period. This is a different system with different rules. And because the rules are different, the single best thing you can do is surround yourself with people who live and breathe home buying. People like myself, people like Rafi, people like Avram, people that it's not something that we do occasionally. This is what we do morning, afternoon, and as Rafi very well knows, very late into the night. So because of this, we have seen every single possible scenario. So nothing you tell us will scare us or surprise us. On the contrary, the more you share, the more information we have so that we can work harder for you. And finally, buying in Israel is way more than a financial decision. It's a statement. It's a statement to the world that we Jews are not guests here in the land of Israel. Rather, we are buying property here in Israel because we are here to stay. So may you buy in Israel, have a Yishuv Tov, and not only you, but your children and grandchildren will thank you for the decision to own a piece of property in the greatest country in the world. I'm now going to turn it back over to Rafi.
Thank you, Tzvi. Thank you so much. And just to add some concrete numbers, when I took out a mortgage and I used a mortgage advisor, he saved me about 50,000 shekel over the life of the mortgage. So we're not talking about a few hundred, a few thousand shekel. Working with a good mortgage advisor, knowledgeable, and Tzvi can really save you a lot of money. So definitely reach out to Tzvi. Like Avram, he's happy to talk to you, have a free consultation, just give you some answers and guide you along. Okay, so let's just like I mentioned, there's a lot of resources that we have. So just, we have 85 tips of Aliyah in real estate. There's a Facebook group that people can join. We have WhatsApp groups. There's for Kupat Cholim, the different HMOs. So there's a lot of resources that we provide. Just simply email me at Rafi Shulman at Olim Advisors, and I'm happy to send you the links and to send you the information. Okay. Here's the contact information for myself, Abraham, Tzvi, and for Racheli and for Mary. So jot it down. Again, we're happy to talk to you, help you, guide you. And what I'd like to do just for the last few minutes is just look at, there's just a few questions that came in. The first question is about a pilot trip. How long should it be? So typically, what I tell people is 10 days to 2 weeks. Of course, it depends on if you're coming with kids, not with kids, how many communities you're looking at, if you need to look at schools. But I think 10 days to 2 weeks is a good time period, and you can mix it with the pilot trip and a vacation as well. There's a question here about paperwork, and as both Mary and Racheli mentioned, there's a list that the Jewish Agency has, Nefesh B'Nefesh have. Just reach out to them, and I think Mary's advice of getting a complete list from the beginning of what you need to provide will help you go through the process quicker. Tzvi, there's a question here about calculators. Are there online calculators for mortgages and interest rates, things like that, or is it something I need to talk to you about?
Yeah, www.clearmortgage.com. There's a calculator button. And what's unique about this calculator is that you could also put in not just your projected interest rates, but you're also able to filter by first-time home buyer, second home buying. You're also able to filter in closing costs because in Israel, closing costs cannot be baked into the mortgage. It comes out of pocket at or around the time of purchase. So you want to factor those in, and the online calculator enables you to not only see how much your projected monthly payments are, but also how much your projected, not just tax, but your full breadth of closing costs are.
Okay, great. Okay, so I think just looking at the clock here, I think we're going to end the webinar again. Thank you so much, Racheli, Mary, Avraham, Tzvi. Thank you so much for joining us. And for everyone that's joined us in the webinar, we really want to encourage you to see through this journey to realize your dream, whether it's buying a home, making Aliyah, and just know that you have support and you have help. So be well, everyone. Have a Shavua Tov. Have a good week. We'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.